Hey, thanks for making it to Veterans Daily with Jay and Clay. We are glad you are here. No, I do not sound like Sean Connery. I'm just sick. Oh, well. So, hey, here's what we're looking at today. We have multiple issues happening at the federal level, and they are all over the board. They are really not hyper focused on one thing. It is so broad right now, and everybody is being touched in one way or another. There's all kinds of different things that are happening, different levers being pulled, different emails being sent. There's a whole host of things. And Clay, I wanted you to dive into some of your thoughts here. And again, for those out there, Clay is the topic guy here. So if you're not happy with it, it's his fault.
Definitely blame me on this one.
Yeah, absolutely. So my channel is Veterans Info Tab. If you're not subscribed, Clay's is the Civ Div. If you're not subscribed, and this is Veterans Daily, our joint channel, and we're here to help spread the word in a more conversational way. So Clay, share with the people here what you have seen and kind of give us some ideas on what we should really be looking at. Should we be taking it face value, or should we be trying to read between the lines? Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm just going to rip the Band-Aid off type approach, Jason. There's really no good way to do this. There have been so many things happening within Trump's first 100 days, right? And we're like a tenth of the way there, by the way. And so we're looking at, Trump firing the VA OIG, which is a very big deal, and that we will definitely talk about and why that matters, which did come to a surprise to me, at least. We're definitely going to talk about the federal funding freeze, although it's been halted or it's been rescinded. There's been some scuttlebutt around basically anything this administration does that it's taking benefits away from veterans, and that's what we're really going to hit on head first. And I will say this, Jason, is it's my personal belief that veteran issues should remain bipartisan. We cannot have it good when Republicans are in office. We cannot have it good when Democrats are in office. It's just got to be good. Period. Point blank. It has to be sustained that way. And so if we make veteran issues partisan, we're going to be in trouble. And I promise you, everyone here has my word. The second that this administration does something bad, I'm going to cover it. I'm sure Jason's going to cover it. But that's really what I want to kind of lead into is why this matters in the first place. So I'm actually going to kick it to you. And why does being involved, why does staying on top of these headlines from Washington Post or Fox News or whatever everyone's flavor is when it comes to veteran benefits?
You bring up a really good point, Clay, and I'm going to, and no specific group out there, just pick whatever groups and pops in your mind. There's plenty of groups of individuals that have a certain goal. And the ones that get things done and the ones that are protected, we'll say, are the ones that are loud and on top of it. Mm-hmm. One of the things that I have seen over and over again with the veteran community is a lot of times we'll see something and just shortchange it. Just be like, yeah, that's nothing new. They're not going to, they'd never do that. They'd never do that. And we don't make any noise about it, even when it's coming from a specific organization, let's say like the CBO, the Congressional Budget Office, right? So the Congressional Budget Office, for those that don't know, have put out, basically, they do this all the time, right? But it gives us an opportunity to see what the budget office is saying. And essentially, the long story short, Clay, is this type of a situation would be the Congressional Budget Office says we can reduce the deficit on the back of veterans, right? They give all of these options to Congress every single year, and they all suck for veterans because that's what they do. Hey, if you take, what's really funny, Clay, is that they don't make recommendations. Imagine if you had a job that you got to go to that had to do with balancing the budget or reducing the deficit in some sort of way, but you didn't have to give any recommendations, just options. It would be so easy. Well, if you do this to those people, you'd save a lot of money. And if you did that to those people, you'd save a lot of money. And so that's all they're doing at the Congressional Budget Office. But I think to your point, though, Clay, is that we, as a veteran community, need to toe the line, if you will, when it comes to being attacked, whether it's something that would directly affect you or not, right? It might not affect me. Like, let's say the Major Richard Starr Act, for example, wouldn't impact me. My life doesn't change, but it affects one of my brothers or sisters, and I believe in it. Therefore, I think that we should all toe the line and have a joint message and say this is BS, right? If you believe in it, right? Not everybody always believes in whatever. So, but if you do, we need to voice it, because it only takes one time where your head is in the sand and you get whiplash because they pulled you out and said, "Hey, guess what? That's gone now." Oh, I never thought that was going to happen. And then when one goes, guess what? 2, 3, 4, change starts to happen. So we need to protect and preserve what we have, Clay.
Yeah, I always see veterans being involved as like a spectrum, right? Which is really funny, by the way. But on the max end, you know, veterans, their spouses, their family members, they're super involved in their local community. You know, their town halls, their governor level. They're calling their representatives. That's like the maximum amount of being involved. The minimum is simply just joining a VSO. Okay. I'm not a huge VSO, like national VSO level fan, but they absolutely have their place on Capitol Hill. You can see the VFW all the time testifying to HVAC, to the Senate, and they are truly the only veteran advocates that's doing that. I'm saying VFW generally, it's the American Legion, DAV, other national level VSOs. And so you kind of have this spectrum of, hey, joining a lifetime membership, especially if you get VA Consultation, you can figure it out, okay? Joining a lifetime membership just to your preferred national VSO is like the minimum standard when it comes to being involved. Maximum is just doing every single thing, being involved. And then of course there's a lot of leeway in that. Now, what I do want to start with, Jason, is I want to start with the email, actually, because this genuinely made me mad. Okay. This made me upset. So if you don't know, every single federal employee, well, let me backtrack. Elon Musk made a tweet on X or Twitter, or whatever it is you want to call it, talking about fork in the road. And it was this idea of federal employees resigning so that way they can cut those positions, right? Essentially what it was. That was a few days ago. Well, yesterday or Tuesday, 2 days ago, okay, it would be last week as this is posted, an email went out to federal employees saying, hey, if you resign now, you basically get paid administrative leave to September. There's a lot of clauses and blah, 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 blah. Anyways, it's from opm.gov, from HR at opm.gov. Everyone got this email, okay? Now, keep that in mind, because what I want to show you really points out to why I chose the topic for this week. This is my LinkedIn profile. You can ignore that. And I'm not going to talk about this guy. I don't know him. I don't want to talk bad about him, but I am going to read his post. It talks about the Trump's purge at Department of Veteran Affairs continues to accelerate. Okay, one, that's false. And this is before VA secretary is even in place, likely any day now. You can see this 1 day ago. He's in place, by the way. This person got that wrong. Sources who are also veterans inside VA have shared this email with me. And basically what you see from this right here, it's this like insinuation of this huge conspiracy theory that Trump is targeting the Department of Veteran Affairs. And that's what this person is putting out, okay? The email subject is fork in the road. They describe it as madness, what a clown show, blah, 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 blah. And then it shows pictures of this email. And see this HR at opm.gov right there at the top. And I'm not going to read the entire email at all. It essentially says, hey, if you want to resign, you have the option to resign. Go ahead and do that. And what makes me mad, Jason, is the insinuation that this email or this topic is targeting the VA, which it's not, because every single federal employee got this email. And you might ask, well, how do you know that? Because I'm a freaking federal employee, right? My email, my inbox right now has that email verbatim from the same address asking federal employees to resign because there are a ton of overhires. Okay. What's an overhire? I'm going to explain that. An overhire is a position that used to be authorized and funded, but for whatever reason, missions change. For instance, going from a theater, it's DoD. So looking at CENTCOM, then transitioning to like INDOPACOM and UCOM focus, a lot of jobs are going to be cut from CENTCOM and pushed into other areas, right? As technology advances, you might want more federal positions on like electromagnetic warfare versus infantry tactics. Whatever the case may be, things change. And so now these positions that used to be authorized and funded are now no longer authorized, but still funded because they're not going to fire people and leave them out on the street. That's essentially what's going on right now. I know that because my position is not authorized and still funded. Okay. And what the email chain does, it gives people the option saying, hey, if you want to leave, we're going to give you paid administrative leave to September. You can get a new job. You figure it out. It's your choice. That's all it is. It has nothing to do with the VA. I don't work for the VA. I work for the Department of the Army, at least as of right now. And it's just, I know I said a lot, Jason, but really what I want to end it with is people will see headlines and immediately go with this administration's targeting veterans. And it's like, okay, one, we're just saying that. Okay. And if you actually look at what's happening, you will know that it's not just false. It's the way this person worded his post. It is, some people would call it fake news. I hate saying that, but it is intentional misinformation. What would be a better way to say that? I know that's a very hard pill to swallow and difficult to break down. But what are your thoughts on that? It pisses me off, to be honest with you.
Yeah, we live in a society now. I call it a fast food mentality, right? Nobody takes the time to do too much, right? They get just enough information. And look, at the end of the day, there's a lot of people that vote one way and a lot of people that vote another way. And politics is like sports, right? It's your team, and anything to paint the other team a certain way is just, it's going to happen. It's human nature. And I think that what has to happen, though, is that you have to take things with a grain when you read things. Go beyond the bumper sticker amount of information, right? And see what's really happening. The last time that we were working in the Trump administration, right? It's weird because we have this it's two different time frames now.
Yeah.
Which is kind of funny because we got this it's a sandwich thing. So the other time there was a lot of, I think, confusion for some people because the way that he would articulate things. But if you look at actions, right? So that's what we have to look at here. You have to look at actions. Where is the rubber meeting the road? What is actually happening at VA? I will tell you that we haven't had a lot of time yet here in this administration. One, I think Doug Collins is probably a super good pick, number one. And so I think that that's good. And I think that if you look at the past, we had the Mission Act, we had Blue Water Navy go through, which was huge. We had the Appeals Modernization Act. So we had some really big, impactful things for the VA. Those were actions that took place. Whether you're somebody who likes whoever or not, it's all besides the point. At the end of the day, like you said, it is all about bipartisanship. Veterans are a sacred piece of our nation, and that when it comes to the elected officials out there, at the end of the day, we would have no elected officials if it weren't for veterans, right? We wouldn't even have a country if it weren't for veterans. So we are a special spot in our nation's fabric. And because of that, we really are bipartisan. Sure, people are going to disagree with how something happens or this or that. There's going to be some of that to see which ways things are going to happen, maybe for the betterment, hopefully for us. But so far, I haven't seen anything traumatic, and I haven't seen anything that's really indicating anything super traumatic yet. Now, I will say this, and this goes back to my first thing. If there's any sort of information out there that indicates anything, it gives us an opportunity to tell our congressional members, hey, listen, I'm paying attention. We are paying attention. And we hope that you will never do anything to impact veterans negatively, right? So I think that there's those opportunities that we need to make sure we speak up, even if it is not going to happen, right? So it's a way for us to share our voice and to continue to protect and preserve what we got.
Yeah, no, I'm so glad you brought that up, and I'm going to talk about, because there's been so much policy related news that affects veterans, and I've been covering on the channel. And what I've seen just from the past couple of days, Jason, and this really has been the last 2 years, conservatives will call me liberal, and Democrats will call me MAGA and conservative, right? And I'm just like, okay, listen. If the Trump administration does something good, like the Appeals Modernization Act, which is good, by the way, the Mission Act, I think it's good. Complete the Mission Act. We'll have to see what that looks like. I'm a little wary on that one, to be honest with you. I'm going to cover it. Those are objectively good. And guess what? The PACT Act under the Biden administration is also good, right? And so did Trump do bad things in his administration? Probably. Did Biden do bad things in his administration? Probably. You can go ahead and go down that path if you want. But looking at veteran issues specifically, I don't care who it comes from. I care about the policy. And so just food for thought. I'm so glad you brought that up because it goes both ways. And again, it can't be good this 4 years, bad the next 4 years. If that happens, we're going to be in trouble, right? Because once legislation is gone, it's very hard to come back.
Yes.
If it's approved, it's very hard to get rid of it. Very, very hard. Like the PACT Act's not going anywhere. I can't. Every time I see people comment the PACT Act's going away, I'm just like, you're either just, I'm gonna be a little harsh here. You're either like really stupid, like really your ability to receive information just doesn't exist, and you have zero critical thinking skills at all. And I'm sorry for saying that. Or you firmly believe in like hardcore conspiracy theories. Like that's it. The PACT Act's not going anywhere. You're fine. Don't worry about it. Anyways, man, talk about rip the Band-Aid off, right? It's like ripping duct tape off. Another thing I do want to transition to is actually the federal funding freeze. And it's kind of the same attitude towards the this email that went out talking about how Trump is targeting VA employees, which is not true at all. This federal funding freeze essentially was put a freeze on all federal funds looking at like diversity and DEI and things of that nature. I'm not even going to comment on that because it's none of my business. I'm going to focus on veteran issues. And what organizations did, like the Washington Post, they made this insinuation that all federal funds are going to stop. Well, when veterans see that, immediately, the conclusion that they make in their mind, and I know this because I've gotten, Jason, in the last 2 days, I've probably gotten 700 to 800 emails asking me if veteran benefits are going away because of this federal funding freeze, right? That's what prompted me to make the video in the first place. And it's like, okay, well, let's just read one paragraph of what that says. And I'm going to read it for you. It says, my monitor's over here, so you can get my side face. It says, the memo, which goes into effect Tuesday, as you're watching this, that was last week, states its orders should not be construed to affect Social Security, Medicare recipients, and also says the federal financial assistance put on hold, quote, does not include assistance provided directly to individuals. That is buried in this article, right? All you see at the top is federal funds frozen.
Well, that's what sells, Clay.
Hey, on YouTube, I get it.
Clickbait,
Yeah.
suckers.
On YouTube, I get it. But the issue I really want to bring to, and I think it's going to be a very big issue the next 4 years, Jason, not just this first 100 days, is everything that comes out from this administration. I really want to see veterans specifically not say VA benefits are going away. Like, that should not be the first response, and it is. It is.
Right.
You know, Trump's targeting VA benefits, and it's like, okay, if that's happening, like, oh, we need to know. If it's happening, let me know. We're going to get into it for sure. But at the same time, I think veterans have to have some level of critical thinking. And if you're thinking, just food for thought, if I'm a Trump supporter, I didn't vote for Trump. I probably wouldn't. I didn't vote at all, by the way. That's not anyone's business. But I want to share that.
That's very patriotic of you.
I know someone's going to comment, Clay's
I'll comment.
Whatever. Yeah. So food for thought, it's crazy right now. It's almost exhausting for me, to be honest with you. What are your thoughts on that? And I know I just kind of gave you a butt sandwich, just said, hey, eat that
delicious
one.
Yeah. I think that, at the end of the day, Clay, we are in a situation again where we have to just sit back, go with it. Don't have these knee-jerk reactions and be you said the whole critical thinking aspect, which mine has gone down a little bit being sick, by the way.
And
so
no, I'm sorry.
But mostly just sick. Mostly just sick. But I think that there was so much in this election of parties vying for votes and basically saying, hey, if you vote for the other person, the world's going to implode for you. And if you vote for this person, the world's going to implode for you. And each one was picking sides to talk about different things, making it up. Politicians aren't honest. What? So here we are, right? We're now in the aftermath of getting all fired up and all stressed out. And look, Doug Collins is moving in to the VA. Seems to be super solid. There's been a lot of good indications. VA healthcare is not going away, and that was the primary conversation point in the Senate Veterans Affairs Committee. It was primarily about the VA healthcare, and that was the big talking point. So I think that everybody just needs to calm down a little bit, but at the same time, and I don't care who's in office. This could be 5 years from now, 10 years from now, 20 years from now. It doesn't matter. Any indication that you get from anywhere that's reputable, okay, that indicates that veterans benefits or veterans are going to be negatively impacted, you need to reach out to your congressional member and let them know, hey, I saw. And again, I'll use the CBO for the example. Congressional Budget Office had put out a few options to help relieve the deficit on the back of veterans. I sure hope that you would never, throw veterans in the fire, right? And if you do that, and you to your congressional member, next thing you know, you got 150 people dropping letters. I will tell you, the congressional member's office, it's not packed. There's not a big line going out the door. It's the same 8 people that keep walking in there for issues. I guarantee you, the majority of you have never even been to you. You don't even know where it's at, your congressional member's office in your district. Maybe stop by. They work for you. It's not a scary thing, right? It's a door. You walk in it. There's a little, high top table thing and a person on the other side, hey, how can I help you? Yeah, I'm veteran so-and-so. I'm a constituent. I just wanted to stop by and check the place out, see where you were located. Do you have somebody who handles VA stuff, veteran stuff? Yeah, that's John or Jane Smith. Cool. It's John or Jane here. Hey, John or Jane, I'm veteran so-and-so, right? Just wanted to drop by. I happen to be in the neighborhood. Just wanted to say, if you could pass the word on to the congressman, congresswoman, that, veterans are a very, very important part of our fabric. And I want to make sure that they're on the same page as far as not throwing us into the fire and preserving all of the benefits in which we have. Can you make sure that message gets to the congressman or congresswoman? And thanks, right? It's not that one thing does much, but when you multiply it, it does. Back to you, Clay.
Yeah, it's when it comes to being involved, I can certainly be involved more than I am now. But I don't know, man. It's just it's exhausting. Like the way, I don't want to sound like someone on X making a tweet right now, but the way the media is structured and how when something happens, everyone's world implodes according to what you're reading. It's like, dude, I'm so done with this. Okay. I'm so done with this. And I know we've been kind of, I guess you could say friendly to the Trump administration this first 30 minutes of this video, which is fine. I do want to switch gears just to show like when something happens I don't agree with, I think we should also talk about it.
Yeah.
And, Trump fired a VA OIG, which was not, he fired many OIGs. I think it was 17 to be specific. One of them was a VA OIG. And that one did come as a surprise to me because this person, Michael Massall, I believe he was during the first Trump administration, worked through the Biden administration. And he's during HVAC, which is House Veteran Affairs Committee, he slammed the Biden-Harris administration on their VA, on their veteran-related policies. Absolutely slammed them. I made a video about that. That was, I want to say 6 to 8 months ago. It was less than a year. And this person has also slammed the previous / current administration, right? When it comes to VA stuff. And then looking at how he was fired, and then you look at the role of a OIG to begin with, this is probably something I disagree with, and I'm going to explain that on why I disagree with it, and then I'm going to pass it to you, Jason. First, the VA OIG, not just the VA OIG. An OIG's role is to essentially make sure that corruption is not rampant. Okay, it is to, in a very basic understanding of what an OIG is, it's to be a journalist and to bring things to light. And that's a very basic elementary understanding of a OIG. For the VA, think about the bonus scandal. Okay, who uncovered the bonus scandal? Because it wasn't VA employees. They're not out here going to Congress and saying, "Hey, I unjustly received a bonus. Can you please punish me and take it away from me?" They're not doing that. It's a VA OIG. The only people who's looking into unwarranted CMP exams is the OIG. And it's checks and balances, okay? That's the role of the VA OIG, and whenever that position is removed, I have no idea how long it's going to take for a new VA OIG to come in place, not just be hired, but get acquainted with the commute to work, the office, the culture in the office. That's before starting the job. It's going to take a while. And so now there's this huge gap that someone could argue the VA has the ability right now to pretty much do whatever they want. And just looking at previous OIG reports just from 2024, that's bad news bears, okay? And so that's something I totally disagree with when it comes to firing the VA OIG, especially at a moment's notice. And there's some legal ramifications for that and all that stuff, of course. But the point is, it was a surprise to the VA OIG. It was a surprise to me, surprise to the VA altogether. And now there's this huge vacuum when it comes to checks and balances in the VA. There's a switching of secretaries. I mean, there's so many moving parts. Something bad can really happen.
Right. Yeah.
What are your thoughts on
When the cat's away, the mice will play,
that?
right?
Mhm.
I agree with you. I think that was not probably the best move. Um, I don't know why um, this happened, uh, but it did. And I agree with you that it's not a good look, and it does open up the VA and, quite frankly, veterans to, I guess, unwarranted risk. Now, you and I have both done videos on the OIG monthly reports, different things that come out of the OIG's office, and I feel as though, look, it's a gigantic organization, right? You're not going to catch everything, and they seem to me as though they have been pretty busy um, over the last couple years, anyway, and I don't know. I wouldn't imagine that office to be too big for all the work that they do. I don't know. I'd love to understand why this was chosen as a removal
Mhm.
to fire this guy, because, like you said, he was in the first go around with Trump, and he's was still here. So um, I don't know. It's very very strange to me. I don't know anything about the other OIGs for the other organizations, because I don't really. It's not veteran stuff. So, but I do pay attention to this OIG, and I think that you're right, and you bring up a good point too, Clay, with the amount of time it's going to take to replace, and then you're talking about the head of that department, the actual OIG. And there's going to be the whole, like you said, the culture, the climate, getting in there and getting to, acclimate and all of that. You're going to have some ramp up time to get in there and do it. So I don't know. I hope that they find a replacement soon, and I hope the person's solid. I'd be curious to see who it is now, because that might shed a light on why the
Mhm.
removal of Michael.
Yeah. I do have a guess as to why, like, if I was in Trump's position, why would I get rid of the VA OIG, which is a crazy perspective to put myself in the first place. But hypothetically speaking, the only thing I can really think of is, although the VA OIG, in my opinion, had great reporting, right? I mean, last year, the OIG slammed the VA administration. Absolutely, just put them in the dirt on both healthcare. You look at the Buffalo, New York healthcare scandal thing, Georgia's healthcare scandal thing, Birmingham, Alabama's suicide healthcare scandal thing. All of this was major. These aren't small issues. Hampton, Virginia probably had the biggest healthcare scandal, where it removed like 15 SESs, and I don't know why there's that many SESs in a hospital in the first place. But those are things the VA OIG recovered or discovered, excuse me. And then you look at the VBA side of the house, the unwarranted C&P exams. There was a OIG report January 4th of 2024, over a year ago, that absolutely slammed not just unwarranted C&P exams, but indicators of fraud when it comes to entities, also known as VA claim companies, who are charging in future benefits. And no one else is doing that but
Right.
the OIG. And I'm not going
Hey,
to
Clay,
disclose. Yeah.
explain to people what unwarranted CNP exams are and how that shows. Like, how would somebody know if they had that?
Yeah. So unwarranted C&P exams. That's such a good topic to not breeze over. This of Before I explain it, let me start with this. Of all the issues in the VA, in my opinion, unwarranted C&P exams is number one, above all else, and I'm going to explain why. So an unwarranted C&P exam it comes in many forms, but for instance, let's say I'm rated for mental health at 6 years. It's static. I don't have a routine future exam. Bam, the VA schedules a C&P exam for my mental health. because I haven't been seeing VA healthcare, which is not a reason, by the way, to be very clear. And then my ratings reduce. So that's an unwarranted C&P exam that results in a reduction, which does happen way more than people think. I know that because people email me reduction notices, and I'm just like, man, this is happening. So that's one version. Another version of an unwarranted C&P exam, and this is what really, really makes me mad. I would even go to say piss me off, is when someone submits a claim with evidence from service, a current diagnosis, a current and chronic diagnosis from the VA or private. Maybe they use American medical experts, which you'll find in the description, for a DBQ and an independent medical opinion / Nexus Letter, and they truly have a claim that is ready for decision. And all that stuff is actionable and sufficient. So what I mean by that is the examiner looked at your service treatment records, they looked at your VA medical records, they looked at all the relevant evidence for that claim. And so you wrap it up in a nice little present, you put a bow on it, put some glitter on it. It is ready to go. You know, my wife, when it comes to Christmas time, goes nuts on presents. In fact, we still have glitter on the floor upstairs. That's why I brought it up. Anyways, that's a squirrel moment. So that is what I would call a true, fully developed claim. Now, what does the VA do? They get that. They go through automated processing systems. You have a new adjudicator on the floor. They kick it to a C&P exam. And you're like, whoa, why is that happening? I have my conspiracy thoughts on that, but we'll get into that here in a second. And so now the veteran calls the VA and says, hey, you know, I had an actionable insufficient DBQ. I had a Nexus Letter. I have evidence from service. I have a current diagnosis. Like, what is this exam for? And the crazy part is the VA on the phone will say, oh, I don't know. You know, the VBA.
But you have to go.
You get to exam. And you're like, okay, I mean, thanks for nothing.
Right.
I could have told you that, right? And so that's also an unwarranted exam, which in my opinion is the number one problem. And there's many reasons why I'm saying that, because one, there's zero accountability, right? I think if the VA schedules an exam for a fully developed claim, I think they owe a reason to the veteran. That does two things. One, it opens up transparency from the VBA to the veteran, which is good. Two, it also forces the VBA to checks and balances, right?
Right.
Hey, why are you scheduling that exam? I want to know why. And so that's what unwarranted exams are. Now, the conspiracy theory on that is C&P exams cost money. To do a DBQ by an examiner, that costs money. It costs taxpayer dollars. You look at who owns OptumServe and the C&P exam companies, and you can just go down a rabbit hole. I'll give you a spoiler alert. It used to be a VA secretary, right? So, yeah, there's some conspiracy level theory there, but that's an unwarranted C&P exams. And the OIG brought that to light. Now, I'm going to leave it with this and get your thoughts, your final thoughts as we wrap this up. Is the VA OIG brought that to light. And in my opinion, why do I think the VA OIG was fired? Although they did a really good job, at least from my perspective, of bringing it to light, when it comes to accountability and every OIG report comes with recommended actions at the very end. I don't think accountability was held to the standard at which it was reported on. Right? So saying, hey, I'm going to report all this great stuff. Oh, you don't do anything about it? Okay. You know,
Right.
I'm going to do my 9 to 5. I get
Right.
that, but there's no accountability there. And at least if I had to choose a reason as to why he was fired, that would be a reason why I would fire him personally. That's my thought.
I think at that point though, Clay, the question is how much authority does the OIG have over telling the VA secretary what he must or must not do? Mm-hmm. I can only recommend. Now, if the president says, oh, hey, BS, I saw this OIG report, those are the recommendations, you better, or Congress or whoever, right? The congressional committees for veterans, right, on the House, Senate side, somebody needs to hold the secretary accountable to that, and it might not be the OIG, right? The OIG might just be the pointer outer, right? And here's the recommendations. Now everybody knows, right? Oh, by the way, let's do another report. There still has been no advancement in any of those recommendations. I'm yelling it from the rooftops. Nobody seems to care. So I think that there's some of that. I mean, you see how these appointed officials, like a VA secretary, for example, and all over the government, right, where they feel as though they have some sort of immunity. The Congress will ask them for things, and yeah, sure, we'll get right on that. And they just, oh, you want me to show up there? Yeah, sorry, I'm busy. Yeah. Right. So there's some of that, I think, that might kind of play in there a little bit. As for the unwarranted C&P exams, I think that okay, I'll play into your conspiracy theory thing a little bit.
Don't go too deep. It only gets worse.
Yeah, no, I'm not, because I'm gonna segue out of it fairly quickly. I think that if a VA secretary was in place as the VA secretary, and thought to themselves, okay, when I get out, I'm going to create this company to provide DBQs and so forth. So I'm going to start setting the stage here while I'm here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to say that basically staff, VBA side, which, I mean, you're not really telling everybody, you're telling the head of the VBA who then rolls it out, whatever, that you must order a C&P exam on every single claim that comes through. Oh, well, the policy says that only if, it doesn't matter, just order them anyway, right? We just want to double check and make sure. Okay. And so there could have been, I guess, some of that on the way out, and then talking with the people that you still know on the inside as you get out. There could have been some of that. I think that enough time has went by to where that would have, I don't know, kind of resolved itself. I don't think that he has any influence over how the VA operates, and I don't think that the people at the VA care whether or not to feed his organization. What I do think is it's laziness. There's a lot of lazy people out there, and it's easier to just go, well, I know I won't get in trouble if I order a C&P exam, but I know I could get in trouble if I don't.
Yeah, it's right? The easy button.
So, yeah, exactly. So it's just the big easy button on there. And, meanwhile, it's some, I don't know, GS7, worker or something that's sitting there that's pressing buttons and texting their friends and whatever else, right? And so it's like, you know what, I would just do a C&P exam, because then it's just, and even, I don't know. I mean, I'm not a medical person. How do I know if this thing's filled out correctly or not? So I'm going to err on the side of it better to have too much medical evidence for the raters to work with than not enough. So I think that it's laziness and, I don't know, lack of knowledge, right? I think that the VA would actually have to train up all the people that order C&P exams on some medical nuancy stuff, and some claims you're going to get that you're like, I've never even seen. What the hell is that? Is this enough? I could sit here and spend 4 hours trying to Google search and figure out if everything's in here, or easy button, and it goes to the quota, right? It's not about quality, it's about quantity. So every minute that you're trying to figure out if you have enough information is one more minute that's passed. So you better act quick. So I think that it's more on that side of the house personally than the tinfoil hat thing. But that's cool, because you look good in the tinfoil hat, Clay. For those that don't know, he did put on a video with a tinfoil hat on, and that was legit. That was, you really made that and really put it on. Yeah,
one of my
looks
favorite
good.
videos I've ever made. So
See, yeah. All right. So, any last things you want to throw out there before we hang up on this?
the last thing I would say is I think veterans should be involved, and if there was one thing I could let every veteran know outside of disability, education, and all that stuff, it would be let veteran issues remain bipartisan. Because I'm telling you, the second that's not the case, we are in trouble. And in trouble is a nice way to put it. That's all I got.
You know what? That's exactly it, man. I think that there's a lot of loud groups out there. We need to be one of them. And when we see an issue that affects veterans, even if it doesn't affect you, right? If it affects veterans, we need to link up arms and be a joint front, if you will. And I think that paying attention and letting our elected officials know that we're paying attention and we see what's going on and what's being recommended or what sort of options are being thrown out there. Nothing bad is going to come from that, right? It's only going to show that we're an aware body, right? As the veteran sphere. The veteran sphere, in my mind, includes obviously veterans, spouses, dependents, surviving spouses, anybody who's impacted due to the veteran. So with that, thank you guys so much for watching. We really appreciate you so very much. And we hope that you have a great week. And with that, remember, if we don't take care of each other, something went wrong.